They say, like Eminem, if you only had one shot, what would you do? Now, this guy was a one hit wonder for the Dallas Cowboys, and he would have caught a second pass in the 1976 Super Bowl against the Steelers. Dallas would have won. Of course, we have to be talking again about that one hit wonder, a very talented guy, but injuries did him in, Percy Howard. 6'4", 210, the native of Savannah, Georgia, went to Fort Lauderdale Dillard High School and went to Austin PE School. He was an unlikely star in the Cowboys in Super Bowl X and also played college basketball at his university. Now, Howard again attended Dillard High School, where he lettered in basketball, football, and track, specializing in a 100 and 200-yard dash. In football, he had 13 touchdown receptions at wide receiver and 9 interceptions at safety. He accepted a basketball scholarship from Austin Peay University, where he averaged 12.4 points and 7.3 rebounds per game during 3 varsity seasons, 73 through 75. Now, again, he was an all OVC selection in 75 and averaged 7 points and 7 rebounds per game in 4 NCAA tournament contests in 73 and 74. He was also a teammate of legendary James Fly Williams. Now, although Howard did not play football at Austin Peay University, the Cowboys saw a tremendous athlete and signed him as an undrafted free agent contract in 75. He became one of only a handful of college athletes to reach the NFL without playing any college football. Now, Dallas, the 49ers, a lot of teams would scour these university squads to see the best athlete and either change them from their position they were doing, from quarterback to wide receiver, or from another sport to a football priority. Now, he joined the Cowboys as a kick returner and a wide receiver. However, during his first preseason game in 75, he broke his cheekbone. Howard was the third receiver on the Cowboys during the 75 season. Where, unfortunately for him, the top 2 receivers were Drew Pearson and Golden Richards. They played at virtually every offensive snap, and the Cowboys did not use formations with 3 receivers. He played primarily on special teams during the regular campaign. His only statistical contributions were a pair of kickoff returns for 51 total yards. Now, late in Super Bowl X, Howard got a rare opportunity to play on offense when Golden broke a rib. With the Pittsburgh Steelers leading by 11 points with less than 2 minutes to go, Howard caught a very big 34-yard touchdown pass from Roger Staubach over Mel Blount, who was considered one of the best defensive players on the Steelers, cutting the deficit to 5 points before the successful extra point kick. A late turnover by the Steelers gave the Cowboys a shot to win the game at the end, turnover on downs, and Howard was again involved on a last-second Hail Mary pass by Staubach, but the ball kind of hit his helmet and he could not make the catch. His Super Bowl touchdown made him the second rookie ever to score a Super Bowl touchdown after former Cowboy Dwayne Thomas in Super Bowl V. Now, during the 76 NFL season, Howard had a knee injury during a preseason game and was required to sit out the remainder of the season. The following season, he re-injured his knee during a veterans orientation session in the 77 training camp, causing him again to sit out the entire season. For Super Bowl XII, he served the Cowboys in a scouting role since he was still trying to recover from his injury. He was released by Dallas before the 78 season and claimed by the Packers, but failed his physical with the Packers as his knee had never fully recovered. Now, the 34-yard touchdown catch in Super Bowl X turned out to be Howard's only career reception in his last game in the NFL. Still, he would become a part of the Cowboys. Lauren was named number 6 on the NFL's top 10 one-shot wonders. And he spoke very eloquently about the catch and basically saying that Blount kind of didn't take him seriously. Like he kind of said, well, the ball's not going to be thrown to me. But if you would have caught that ball, it would have been Hail Mary too. Now, it's called Catch of a Lifetime. And that's a very interesting vault article by Steve Wolf, who said that Percy Howard's one and only NFL reception for a Cowboy TV in Super Bowl X may have been a blessing or a curse. Wolf said it was just one catch a long time ago, but as it is with a pebble dropping into a pond, the ripples seem to go on forever. Howard remembers that as a fire slant 24A sideline, lining up a wide receiver on the left side, he was to run at the quarterback and accelerate past him then head for the end zone and look for quarterback Roger Staubach's pass. Well, he bet the cornerback Mel Blount of the Steelers, which was a feat in itself, and when he looked up for the pass, it was there. He caught the ball cradled as it was an egg and fell backward on pay dirt with his legs sticking up like a pair of scissors. In fact, that's about all you can see in replays of the catch, just a pair of legs pointing in the air. Now, there's a first catch for almost every wide receiver who makes it to the NFL, and there are a number of instances of receivers breaking their maidens in the end zone. Howard's first catch, though, was unique for several reasons. He made it in the Super Bowl, and his 34-yard reception brought the Dallas Cowboys, who were trailing the Steelers by 11 at the time, with less than 3 minutes remaining, back from the brink. The catch was a key ingredient in what people consider one of the few outstanding Super Bowls. Now, the TD was also of significance to millions of bettors. Pittsburgh was favored by 6.5 points, so by making the final score 21-17, Dallas bet the spread. But the strangest thing about Howard's first catch on January 1876, that was also his last. Now, some 15 years later, on a gray day in mid-December, the sound man for a jazz band is unloading equipment in front of Champagne, a nightclub in North Dallas. A stranger asks him if the manager of the place, Percy Howard, is around. The sound man looks puzzled. Percy Howard? You don't mean the wide receiver of the Cowboys, do you? Yes, he does. A few minutes later, Howard arrives at the club. People remember, he says in Wade, that one catch keeps me alive. Howard, at the time, which was 15 years in 1991, still looked as though he should be playing. Athletes often gain weight after their playing days, but a 6'4 Howard was never really a football player per se. The Cowboys, again, recruited him when he was in college basketball, and again, that catch was the only official reception he had. Now, he talks a little bit about the article and about being a return specialist. This is what he said. The day of the game, do you know what else I remember about that day besides the catch? I remember me and backup quarterback Clint Longley putting on a show in pregame. He had a great arm, remember? Howard figured those would be only passes to catch all day. The Cowboys again scored 10 points early, but the offense was shut down after that, thanks in part to a terrible beating Golden was getting at the hands of the Pittsburgh secondary. Watching from the stands, I had the same feeling I had during training camp. I just knew Percy would get into the game, what one of his friends said. Now, Dallas still led 10-7 after 3 quarters, but when the Steelers exploded for 14 points, a safety, 2 field goals, and a touchdown, with a missed extra point to go ahead 21-10, Howard was brought in to replace the injured Richards. Now, on one of the first routes upon entering the game, Howard thought he had gotten by Blount, but Staubach didn't see him. On the way back to the huddle, says Howard, Blount said to me, "Why don't you tell him to go to you if you think he can beat me?" I told Roger I thought I could, and he relayed the message to Landry, because Landry had the last shot. Now, the fire slant 24-hour sideline, Staubach didn't give it a second thought. We had worked together all year, says Staubach. I knew the bird could do it. That's what we call Percy, the bird. Now, Howard began his route at a canter to make Blount think he was out of the play. I stayed real close to him, so when I did make my move, he would have to pivot around to keep up with me. When I went by him, I saw his eyes, and they were this big. Howard, who loves reliving the play, forms 2 large O's with his hands. Blount never caught up to Howard, who was wide open in the end zone when Staubach's pass arrived. Now, Dallas got the ball back one more time, and Howard got one more chance to be a hero. With 12 seconds to go, and I saw the game live, and the ball back in the Pittsburgh 38, Staubach threw a Hail Mary pass in the general direction of Howard, because a field goal wasn't going to tie the game. He was in the right corner of the end zone. Howard, however, had 3 Steelers on him, and he meant to leap to make the catch. The ball was tipped away and also hit his helmet. Roger used to kid me that I jumped a fraction of a second too late, and I would tell him he threw it a fraction of a second too early. Had Percy caught it, says Staubach, he would have been a legend. Now, as it was, Howard became something a mini hero in Dallas. He was surprised to find the fan shouting his name as he got off the plane that brought the Cowboys home that night. I remember Joe Brand tapping me on the shoulder after he got off the plane and saying, "Now go out and become a star." And of course, the injuries followed him up, and he spent again the rest of the season rehabilitating the knee in '76, only to have it give way during a practice in the '77 training camp. He said, I remember lying there on the ground and looking down at me like it was a figment of my imagination was Coach Landry. A few minutes later, when I was being looked at in the trainer's room, the coach came over and said, you look scared out there. Don't worry, you got a long road ahead of you, but we're right there with you. He also missed the entire 77 season, but he accompanied the Cowboys to New Orleans for Super Bowl 12. One night during Super Bowl week, he and some other players were caught breaking curfew. In the meeting the next day, he said it was fined $250. Howard says, heck, I was so thrilled he still considered me part of the team that I would gladly pay them $500. But however, the knee never came back. And Brandt said, I truly believe that if Percy hadn't got injured, he would have been all pro. After his football career, Howard, who had a background in martial arts, trained to become a heavyweight boxer. That didn't work out because of his injured knee, and Howard went through a series of jobs, including one as a cutlery salesman, before he became an investigator for a security company. Eventually, Howard became a private detective. Now, the catch, the idea about the catch, they always thought Howard, was the link to the modern Cowboys as well. Percy does not seem to be a champagne type, however, an outsider would be impressed by the sobriety which he ran these clubs at the time, which caters an upscale, predominantly black clientele. He's remembered by his teammates as being a very nice guy, and apparently nothing has changed in that regard. It's just that once you catch a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl, life is never the same. You know, Howard says, I often wonder what would have happened if I had caught that Hail Mary, and so have I, and we had won that game. But then, what if you hadn't caught even a one pass for a touchdown? See, sometimes you have one moment in life that could decide your future, and Percy Howard, again, what he did in that game, it really stood out for me because no one expected him to do anything. And we were noticing Golden Richards wasn't playing. And then all of a sudden, Percy Howard, the end zone. And it's like, what the heck is going on here? Because if anybody knew who Percy Howard was before that game, smarter than us, because we knew the Dallas players by heart. Newhouse and Roger Staubach and Drew Pearson, Preston Pearson. Just before even Tony Hill arrived. So we knew them, by name, by heart. So who's this Percy Howard guy was shocking because we knew it was going to be something else. And when he didn't make the catch in the end zone late in the game, in those two Super Bowls that were not for Jackie Smith and were not for Percy Howard not catching that ball, that were our Super Bowls. So I look at 5 Super Bowls that Cowboys have. They should have 7. But, neither here nor there. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. This is a story about Percy Howard and a catch heard around the world, and maybe 2 catches almost heard around the world. If you like what we're doing here with our Dallas Cowboy podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. Bye.